Welcome to Clear Play, powered by Typical Sportsbook. I'm your host, Tony Anderson, and today we are talking keys to the game with our special host, baseball writer for USA Today Sports, Steve Gardner. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing great, Tony. How about you?
I am excellent. Excited to talk about this MLB action. So I have to ask you, how important is starting pitching matchups when predicting baseball results?
Well, it's probably the most important thing that you have. I mean, every play starts with the ball in the pitcher's hand. And as we know, the ones who are really, really good at it get paid the most money of anybody in baseball. So we've heard the phrase, good pitching stops good hitting. That's generally true when you talk about the best pitchers on the mound. And it's also why teams like to try and run up pitch counts. Take a lot of pitches, foul a lot of pitches off to get those ace pitchers out of the game and get to the bullpens where they have, arguably lesser arms there. So we see fewer and fewer, I think, ace pitchers in the game right now. And so the best ones in the game do have a big hand in determining the outcome.
So, Steve, I'm sure you've seen Moneyball. We all have. Phenomenal movie. Talk to me about what is sabermetrics and why do sabermetrics and baseball go together so well?
Well, it comes from the Society for American Baseball Research. That's where the word comes from. And it's basically taking all of the data that we have in baseball and just synthesizing it so that we can understand the game a little bit better, diving maybe a little bit deeper than just the surface stats that we're all familiar with.
What are some of the actual stats that can go into predicting good pitching, good hitting, good teams? What are the most important stats to actually evaluate these things?
The one that I like for pitchers is strikeout percentage. I think that works better than, we see strikeouts per 9 innings referenced a lot. But in terms of whether a pitcher is efficient in getting those strikeouts, I think that's a more important stat to me. I mean, you look at some of the best pitchers in baseball last year had the highest strikeout percentages, follows good logic. Corbin Burns was at 36%, Max Scherzer 34%, Garrett Cole 34%. So, if pitchers can be effective, we know that the best kind of out that a pitcher can get for the most part is a strikeout because the ball's not put in play. You don't leave a whole lot to chance. And the best pitchers get a lot of those and help tamp down those rallies. In terms of for hitters, I kind of like what we know as weighted on base average, and that's kind of a sabermetric term that not a lot of people are super familiar with. But what it does is it basically gives batters credit for everything that they do toward helping their team win. If they get a walk, that's good. A hit, a double is not necessarily twice as good as a single, but just getting on base, getting extra bases, driving and runs, things like that. It's all encompassed in that stat. I think people are more familiar with perhaps maybe on base plus slugging percentage. That's another catch-all that just tells you, exactly how good your hitter is.
So, Steve, we're going to talk about typical player props. Explain bases for hitters.
Sure. Essentially what it is a single is 1 base, a double is 2 bases, a home run is 4 bases. So if you're looking at what a player can do and at what his potential is, Vladimir Guerrero just the other day, 3 home runs and a double, that's pretty nice when you start adding all those up to 14. That's a super terrific total. I think it correlates to slugging percentage, basically, which is the total number of bases per at-bats. If you have a high slugging percentage, you're going to rack up those total bases.
So, Steve, what do you look for in a hitter to be successful in a given matchup?
I think you look at whether the hitter is left-handed or right-handed and the pitcher, because, as we know, hitters are much more successful when facing opposite-handed pitchers. So right-handed batters against left-handed pitchers, or left-handed batters against right-handed pitchers. And if you have that advantage, then you're generally much more successful.
Now, moving on to premium picks. Steve, who do you like from each division?
In the American League East, I see this as a 4-team race with Toronto, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Rays. I've got the Blue Jays coming out on top in the AL East. In the Central, I think it's all White Sox. They should be an easy winner there. And in the AL West, again, it's hard for me to see anybody beating the Astros and knocking them off their perch. The National League, the Braves are superior. Although the Mets are very good in the East, I still think the Braves are the team to beat. In the Central, this is where I may be a little against the grain. I like the St. Louis Cardinals to beat the Milwaukee Brewers for the division title, and even though it should be very, very close. And in the West, the Los Angeles Dodgers, you add Trey Turner, you add Freddie Freeman added to that team that won 106 games last year. Really going to be hard to beat the Dodgers in the West.
So, Steve, I know it's early in the season. It's hard to really make a distinction on what's what, but with what we have so far, what players and teams have really impressed you thus far?
First of all, the Colorado Rockies have won 4 of their first 5 games, including taking 2 of 3 from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Maybe we should be rethinking the Rockies, and adding Chris Bryant may shake that team up. For players, I have to say, Seiya Suzuki of the Chicago Cubs, coming over as a heralded player, a batting champion, a Gold Glover from Japan, and he just hits the ground running with the Chicago Cubs. Several home runs already this season. He's shown the power and the plate discipline that made him a star in Japan. He's somebody we definitely need to watch.
Make sure you go to Tipico and lock in your bets right now.